Hi everyone, I'm Jessica and I go by Stitching Colours here on YouTube. Welcome back. Today I just thought I would film a little video with all of the finishes I've had over time. Some of these are originally off AliExpress and as such I probably won't give you much details about those, but if I know who I believe is the original designer, I will pass on the information. So I have been shopping for finishing pieces and then never actually doing anything with them. Just let me shuffle a few things more out of the way. Okay, so these aren't in any particular order, but this was the first one I did off AliExpress. I don't know where it is. It's stitched on 14 count and yeah, it's full coverage, and again, don't know who the real artist will be. Next one, I know there are many iterations of this, and that is the teacups, so I'm not entirely sure who is the actual correct one for this version. It might even be a legitimate pattern, who knows? Given that there are so many different versions of the teacups, it's hard to know. The next one I have is a little Christmas one. This was done looks like it must have been 18 count, I think. And so it's just the little owls that are all costumed up. Again, not sure who the designer is. Then we've got a Christmas stocking, which I am almost 100% certain should have actually been originally a Dimensions one. So that was 14 count as well. And here is another one that I'm pretty sure was a Dimensions one, and that is this one. So this one I believe matched up more with what the actual Dimensions chart will be, in that it had various numbers of strands and half stitches and full crosses and different amounts of strands and back stitching and things like that. This is another one. So this one is one of the fairy tale ones that is by Soda Stitch. So I bought the kit off AliExpress and then I changed the fabric to a 28 count Lugana. In that meantime, we discovered the original designer, which was Soda Stitch, and bought the pattern, but most of it is stitched using the original AliExpress pattern, but doing the back stitching. Okay, and I think that is most of the ones from China. A little add-in, I found another one. So this is very likely, if I'm not mistaken, a Dimensions one, which was, I think it's the Victorian house. I think that one actually comes on navy Lugana, so a lot of the sky isn't stitched. And let's just say there was a lot of back stitching and French knots in it. Loved the piece, but was very disappointed to realise that it was not a legitimate pattern. Next, we'll do this one. So this was a Christmas Advent stitch along by Handmade by Hannah that was run in 2021, I believe, and I will put a link or something down below or on the screen. And so this was meant to be a advent calendar where each of the days was meant to be a different, well, it was meant to be backed on white, but I wanted to use it more as a wall hanging, so I did the whole lot on red. The original plan included stitching on the white little pockets essentially onto the red fabric to create a usable advent calendar. The next one is the Twisted Band Sampler by Northern Expressions Needlework. I'm pretty sure it's this way up. I haven't looked at this one for a while. I'm actually planning on repeating this one because this one's stitched on 18 count and the rainbow that I'm doing is on 25 count. So I think I would rather have them hung side by side on both the same fabric count. So it will get restitched. This is another one, which is the Temperature Tree, and that was by Stitching Mummy originally, and this was based on our weather in 2021, I think. So I was really happy how that came out. And that was fabric that Mum dyed. I have no idea how she got the green at the bottom, but yeah. Another little one, which is in a really bad state. Hold on. As you can tell, I haven't ironed these or anything like that, but here we go. This is the Three Gables by the Cricket Collection, and this has recently, last year, had a sequel pattern released for it. Yeah. I haven't put the buttons on this one. I've got the buttons ready to put on, but I've been struggling with where to put them because this is stitched over 2 on 32 count blue spruce linen, and the buttons just don't quite fit the same as what they would on the recommended count, which I believe was 14 or 28 count. This will go next. So this is Pandemic. Hey, I never washed this one. Anyway. Yep. Stitched on a red fabric, which it's more of a pink, that I dyed myself using an Anchor blue and white variegated thread. It was a big learning curve for myself, this one. I found in the end that stitching with a thread that variegated so rapidly like this one didn't go all that well. I found that you lost a lot of the details. So if I were to come back and do it again, I probably would have just picked a solid colour to stitch it on. But that is a learning curve and something that that comes with time. So I've got a few more recent ones that are all wrapped around some of these other ones. Okay, that one's more recent as well. Okay, this one is Royal Games by Mirabilia, and this is the first one. I've got the pattern and all the threads and everything for the second one. I just haven't stitched it yet. So this was stitched on 28 count opalescent Brittany Lugana, and Hey, it's got a needle sticking in it. That's not good. Now that I've got the needle out. I loved stitching on this. It took me about 10 or 12 days when I did it. So I really need to do the other one and then probably frame both and hang them together. The other one is going on exactly the same fabric. This is another long dog sampler, much like Pandemic, and it is crossword, and I put it on a country stitch Eden fabric in 22 count, and I used 550 CXC thread, and there's a blue petite treasure braid for the letters. Originally I started planning on doing the letters in like a silver, but they didn't show up at all. This one as well, which really needs to be washed, which is Minnie the Witching Hour by Lisa Parker, and this is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart. So this is stitched to 25 count, 1/1. I loved how this came out. I just put it away and haven't actually come back to do anything with it. This is one, much like that other one, that I've finished since I started Flosstube. You'll see this one, which is Kingdom of Books, charted by Adriana, and I decided not to put the book titles on it. I kind of liked them more without. Another one that you would have seen, which is the Fairy Tale Sampler by Dragon Dreams. Again, this was one of those ones, one of my first finishes on Flosstube, and you can see I never edged the fabric. It's fraying a little bit, but there was plenty of fabric in the piece and I just never cut it or haven't done anything with it as yet. Probably should. It is a very cool pattern. Okay, this one has been washed, and that is cat number 4 by Gecko Rouge, and the artwork was originally by Zizek Namu, and that was also finished earlier with YouTube. And another one I have is Evening in the Park by Shadowlane, and this is a mandala stitched with pretty much all the called fors on a Chromatic Alchemy lazurite fabric, I believe, which was a 32 count linen. I loved it, and if you want a closer look at that, it is on my video. You'll see it's probably titled that I had a finish, because I remember I did a small little update after I finished it. And so the ones I have on the wall, I will put a picture of them. And the first one I've got is White Winter Santa, also by Mirabilia, and this is stitched on 32 count lazurite linen. Actually, thinking about it, while they're very similar colours, Evening in the Park, this one, is actually on Midnight, which is a, what is it? I don't remember. I will put it up on the screen. The details have been in the videos, but yeah. It's gonna bother me. But anyway, the other one I was talking about, which is on my, one of them that's on my wall, White Winter Santa, stitched on 32 count lazurite linen by Chromatic Alchemy. And that was a lot of fun to stitch, although I have to say I hated using the whisper thread. We just did not get along. I don't have any issues with metallics, but whisper, no. not something I would like to go back to again. And the other one I've got is Faces of Faery by Jasmine Beckett Griffith, and this was a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern at the time. I'm pretty sure it might be a retired one, quite possibly, and this was stitched 18 count 1/1, and it is tiny. I stitched this one originally using Extreme Cross Country, starting with all the black because the black kind of went everywhere. Unfortunately, I did make a few counting issues and had to frog about 1,500 stitches of 310 and then restitch them one block over. Unfortunately, I'd stitched them outside the actual stitching area. Whoops. So that's kind of what put me off stitching on Extreme Cross Country. And the last one I have, which I framed and then did not properly secure to the wall before leaving it, and as such it fell off the wall and the frame is somewhat cracked. The glass and everything is fine, just not the frame around it. Whoops. And that is the Snow Queen, also by Mirabilia, and that's stitched on the Called For fabric. That was my first Mirabilia that I ever did. She took about a year, just over a year to finish. Most of that time I wasn't actually working on it. I was kind of stitching on other things because it was also my first time stitching over two, and my first time stitching over on linen, and also my first time stitching with silk threads, and also my first time doing beading. So it was a big goal originally when I started it. I didn't think anything of it initially, but in hindsight it was a pretty big jump. And yeah, so thank you for coming and having a look and seeing what I have done in the past. Now you know what I'm doing currently. There may be a few more pieces from AliExpress that I have not shown, but they will be floating around somewhere. There's even more that I started and never finished, and a few I gave away all the threads for because I went, I'm not stitching this, after realizing how bad some of them were. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to put them down below and I will try and answer them. Yeah, I should be back next week with my next update, and I'm hoping to get some really good progress more done until then. Alright, thank you for watching and have a good week.